Hello, everyone. This is Tommy at World at War Comics, and this week we have another amazing guest. This time we are speaking with the one and only David Booher. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation that we had. Just so insightful and such a thoughtful human being. Takes his craft extremely serious, and it comes through when you read anything from Specs to Firefly to Canto to Rain. Killer Queens. It's just absolutely incredible. I think you're going to really enjoy this. So before we get into it, though, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and please share this content. It really helps the indie community. But without further ado, here is Mr. David Booher. Thanks, David, for joining. Talk soon. Well, hello, everyone. Really excited to have David Booher here. Am I pronouncing your last name right, David?
You nailed it. You nailed it. I love it.
Yes. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on. You've accomplished a lot in comics, so I'm really excited to kind of go through your history, and you have some passion projects that I would love for you to kind of share with. So let's just dive right in, David. Where did this passion for writing begin? Because you're writing a lot. So what age and what time frame did that take place for you?
I'll just start off by saying they're all passion projects.
Yeah, of course, yes. It's like picking your favorite child, right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not picking any of you.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But that's sort of my guiding light throughout this whole process is just doing projects, just doing stories that I love and I'm passionate about. And in the licenses that I've gotten to write for, those worlds are just worlds that I grew up with. I love. I mean, I'm wearing it on my sleeve, literally. But that's and that's sort of where I started was passion for writing. Writing, going all the way back to college. Once upon a time, I started sort of writing a little bit then. And then life paths take you in strange and interesting places. So I don't know if you've seen in my bio, but I practiced law for 17 years. So I'm a licensed attorney. I had the very good fortune of being able to leave that and focus on writing full time in the fall of 21. So a year and a half now, right in the midst of the pandemic. So that was a fun, lots of things changed. But even writing while I was an attorney, so my day job was working for the court system. So I worked for judges. So every day, 9 to 5, 8 hours a day, I would be researching and writing legal opinions. And it's a particular skill. And then in the evenings, on the weekends, I started by writing fiction. And I like to tell folks that I wrote 3 novels, which was kind of crazy, right? But they were all absolutely terrible because I was just starting. But there is a silver lining, which was each successive book was a little less terrible than the last one.
That's how it works, right?
Progress, just a little bit baby progress. Steps forward. Then I started transitioning into writing features and TV and just trying to do that, realizing that the stories that I wanted to tell were like $100 million movies. Like, how do you write $100 million movie? Well, you write a comic book. So I've been going to San Diego Comic-Con for years and years and years, probably 15 or more years. So before I got in there, just before it became just absolute chaos. So I remember going, the last memory that's burned into my mind. So if folks know, if they're listening right now, to get a badge for Comic-Con, just to attend, it's like the Hunger Games. You have to kill like 14 children, and then you may not even get it.
Then you still have to pay for it once you get picked, which is another lien on your house and all kinds of stuff.
We have selected you for the privilege of paying $400 for a pass. So I remember the last year that before that all went spiraled down. They had these like 20 or 30 registers set up in the sales pavilion that were just all staffed. There was nobody there. And on a Friday, I was walking through and I thought, I'm here right now. Why don't I just buy our badges for the next year? And I did. I
Oh,
walked right up and I did it. And then the next year, you had to kill all the kids. So,
yeah.
um, so, so I've been going to Comic Con for a long time, and I was
Yeah.
never. I used to say, and I've said this, a number of times, but I
Yeah.
used to think that I came late into comics,
Yeah.
but then I realized that was wrong for two reasons. One is saying that you're late to comics suggests that there is a time that's right to
Yeah.
come to comics, and you could be 8 or you could be 80
Yeah.
coming to
Yeah.
comics for the first time, and that's the right time.
Yeah.
But then the
Good
second
point.
thing I thought was saying that I was late to comics is not accurate because comics is such an enormous umbrella that when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I was dedicated to reading Mad Magazine and Far
Yeah.
Side
Yeah.
and their comics.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
such a fascinating thing for me to think that, you know, Calvin and Hobbes and Watchmen have
Yeah.
the same DNA. They have the same DNA.
That is crazy
And
to think
so
about. Yeah.
and that's what I love about comics is that you
Yeah.
can, it
Yeah.
can change your perspective, it can change your mind,
Yeah.
it can change your life if you read one that you really connect to.
Good
So
point. Yeah.
I started reading comics 15 years ago when I started going to San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah.
And I read my first comic, and it's still my favorite comic, is Lock and Key.
Hmm.
And it was the first comic that I read that I thought I had no idea that storytelling could be like this
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
comics were like this. I thought
Yeah.
it was Marvel, DC, superheroes. I was
Yep.
kind of aware a little bit of indie stuff, but
Hmm.
never
Yeah.
never to the place where Lock and Key sort of hit with me.
Yeah.
So from there, this is my very long origin story, but from there,
No, it's
I've become
beautiful. I love it,
the
David. Yeah.
super villain I am today.
No, it's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so I read Lock and Key, and then I thought, this is something that I think I would like to try.
Yeah.
And I pitched my first story, and it got picked up by a publisher that eventually became Vault Comics.
Yep.
And I did a couple projects with them. And then in 2018, IDW picked up Canto
Yeah.
with a pitch, and that was the one that really gained a lot of. We all came together because we love it.
Yeah.
Drew Zucker, who's the artist on Canto, we
Uh,
love the story, we love the character, we
oh,
love being in that world, and it
yeah.
was so fun to see when it came out that a lot of other people also shared that passion
Oh,
that we shared.
yeah.
So that kind of opened the doors for me. And since 2019, when that first came out,
Yeah.
uh, I've been doing a lot of other things, and it's fun. It's fun to think that Canto came out only about in June of 2019. So
Yeah.
I was only in the industry, like really gaining any traction in the industry as a
Yeah.
creator and having something that was successful.
Yeah.
And 8 months later, it all shut down in
Yeah.
2020.
Hmm.
And I
Crazy,
think
huh?
back and I'm like,
Yeah.
it seems like I was doing it for a lot longer. But
Yeah.
um,
I think
yeah, so
COVID like added 10 years to all of us, I think.
but it also stripped away all of the extra
Yeah.
stuff that
That's
everybody
true.
was doing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what are editors doing
Yeah.
but looking at acquisitions and looking at
Yeah.
pitches, and
Good
same
point.
in the
Good
TV
point.
and film industry. I've gotten a lot of opportunities through the pandemic because
Yeah.
the executives were not going out to dinners, they weren't going out to
Mm,
lunches and drinks and coffee and all these
yeah.
things. They weren't producing
Mm,
anything, so they were just acquiring. So
yeah.
it was an opportunity to focus really on what matters, which is story and
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Incredible. So then you get to Canto, but that's not it. I mean, that's your breakaway for sure, right? Would you consider that kind of the breakaway? I mean, I would tell you, I have an enormous amount of Canto that I really love.
Well, we're 23 issues into Canto, so it's definitely going strong. We're
Yeah.
coming out. We've been teasing it, and we have some really exciting news for on the Canto front.
Yeah.
But we will be continuing. We've got one more 6-issue story arc that we've been talking about called "A Place Like Home."
Oh,
That's going to complete the what I'm calling the Shrouded Man saga.
okay.
So it's all 5 from Canto number 1 all the way through Canto number. Um, it's going to be 29, issue
Okay.
29, because we've got like the Clockwork Fairies one shot, and then we've got the
Yeah.
City of Giants 3 issues,
Yeah.
and then
That might be my favorite, The City of Giants, by the way. I love that one. I mean, they're all great, but yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it
you
was so
have
fun. We brought on Sebastian Perez to do the art so that Drew
uh-huh.
could be freed up to do Canto 3. And it
Yeah.
was fun to just have this world where we could play in with
Yeah.
different themes.
Yeah.
We're sort of in the 6 issues that's going to complete that arc, and then I think there's going to be the opportunity to continue on, and there's going to be the we're going to bring out the lots of folks have been asking for hardcovers, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it looks like that's going to happen. So we'll be able to do that.
Nice.
So Canto is going to go strong, but since Canto, I did Killer Queens, which
Yep.
is a personal story.
Yeah.
Personal story. It's like it's a big sci-fi romp that I like to. We brought it together an all LGBTQ plus
Uh-huh.
creative team that I
Uh-huh.
to make the story that I refer to as Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's where we
I
are.
haven't heard that term yet. I love
So
it. I
that's
love
my
it.
pitch for it. So that was with Dark Horse, and
Yeah.
we will be having some announcements for that
Nice.
going forward. So that's exciting. I did that. And
Yep.
then January of last year, I believe, is when we started with Rain,
Yes.
which was with Image Comics and Syzygy Comics and my buddy Chris Ryle, who used to be at IDW.
Mm-hmm.
And in a beautiful moment of syzygy, of synchronicity in the
Yeah.
universe, uh, Rain is based on a short story by Joe Hill, who
Mm.
also did Lock and Key. So I started my passion for comics with Lock and Key
That's so
and
cool.
gotten to the point, probably 10 years later, to
Yeah.
be doing, to be able to adapt, to work with Joe and adapt one of his stories into comics with the artist Zoe Thorogood, who's wonderful and a rising
Yeah.
star herself, which is amazing. That was again a passion project because I read the novella and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the characters, and I thought
Yeah.
it's so visual. This should
Yeah.
be something. This should be
Mhm.
something. And so we did it as a comic.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
I did.
So how
So I
does
did
that come
Rain.
about? Do you reach out and they know you're a huge fan? Like, how does that all come together to kind of come full circle for you, right? 10 years later.
It's a lot of folks. You always hear this advice. It's like never burn bridges. Always be
Oh,
nice to
yeah.
everybody. Always,
Absolutely. Yeah.
always. And it's not even networking. It's just being like a nice
A
person. Be a
human,
good
right?
person. Be a human being that other people want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's my number one advice for people in the getting into the industry as a writer, artist, whatever.
Yeah.
Just be the kind of person that other people want to see succeed, and
Yeah. Exactly.
those are the people that will help you.
Yeah.
So when I was working on Canto at IDW, Chris Ryle, who's the editor
Hmm.
at Syzygy, we sort of I'd met him. He knew about Canto, and we sort of worked
Yeah.
together a little bit. I didn't really know him very well
Hmm.
when he was there, and then he left at IDW, and he left IDW and started sort of doing something on his own, which is this
Yeah.
imprinted image. And I had talked to him at some point along the way about how much I loved this story, Rain.
Yeah.
And of course, Chris is the editor on Lock and Key, and he's very close friends with Joe.
Yeah.
And so Chris reached out to me and he's like, are you still interested? I think we might be able to do this.
Yeah.
Interested in adapting Rain? And I said, well, heck yeah, I am. And so he talked to Joe. He
That's
sent over,
awesome.
I think, Canto as my writing sample. And
Yeah.
Chris was the one who really championed me to Joe because
That's
Joe's
awesome.
not a big, it's not like a lot of us as writers. We're kind of particular,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I think Joe is sort of particular about adaptations and that sort of thing. But he liked Canto. You know what? Let's give it a shot.
That's
And so
awesome.
I wrote my treatment, how I would adapt it, because some things kind of changed a little bit
Yeah.
from the story to because for me, my philosophy is write the best version of the story that serves the medium you're working in.
Mm.
So comics not a storyboard for a movie. A
Yeah.
movie's not a outline roadmap for a TV show. All of
Hmm.
those things, you just have to write the best story that's going to work in that
Yeah.
medium.
Oh, wow.
So I did an outline for Rain, how I would adapt it to comics, and
Yeah.
Joe I think really responded to that. And then I wrote the first issue script, and I just poured my passion and like my soul into
It
this
probably just
script.
flowed out of you, David. I mean, if you're such a big fan, right?
I was
Did it?
like,
Are you nervous because
yes.
of Joe's gonna see it? Like, what kind of feelings are you going through as you're doing that? Because there's a lot of excitement, And I'm sure that story's coming to you, and you've probably been thinking about this for a long time, but then it's going back to the creator, right? I mean, there's got to be a little nervousness there, I would think.
Yeah, and Joe is so nice.
Oh, good, good. Yeah.
So when I approached it, I knew exactly. I've done, and with Specs is similar. I feel like
Mhm.
Specs is a sort of spiritual successor to Rain because
Uh-huh.
it's this character and relationship first horror
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
and that's the ones I love to do. It's like write
Yeah.
about these characters, and then bad stuff happens to them. So that's exactly how I went into Rain. I'm like, I'm going to write this about this relationship, this love between these two characters that
Yeah.
we're going to then challenge in this apocalyptic scenario. And
Yeah.
that's how I approached it. And the story does approach it in that way. And
Hmm.
I tracked it, but I really brought that relationship forward for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
comic to make it more visual. And this is going to sound so I hope I'm not. I hope this doesn't sound bad, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote this script and it fit together so nicely that I thought I sent it over to Chris, and Chris responded in the same way I responded to
Yeah.
it, which was like, "This is it. This is the story that we want to tell."
That's
And
awesome.
so by that point, when I sent it over to Joe, I had a good sense that he might
Yeah.
have notes or he might have changes or that sort of thing, but we were well on the path that we all wanted to be on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something as a writer that I've finally gotten to. That's the stage that I've gotten to where I look at something and I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
this is it. There's going to be notes, there's going to be changes, there's going to be edits, but I know deep in my gut
Yeah.
that this is we're on the right track.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's got to be a good feeling too.
To be on the right track, yeah,
Yeah.
because there's so
I mean,
many times where
especially
I'm
on
like,
something that you're so passionate
flip
about.
the table. This is not working. I'm out. Uh, yeah, so I have very much learned that the number one
Yeah.
thing that I can do, that any creator can do,
Uh-huh.
is follow their gut.
Yeah.
The gut
Yeah.
is never wrong. It's never
Yeah.
ever wrong, no matter what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it won't come across if you try to probably go against that gut in your writing, right? I think people will read that and know it's not genuine. So yeah, it definitely, I think you're the type of writer, right? If you're gonna pour something in, it's gonna be really who you are, and it comes across genuine, and that's probably why most people like what you do.
And that's,
I
I
would,
mean, that's Specs. Specs was
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
that, which is
yeah,
I'm going to do the story that I want to do. And I
yeah,
know, and I feel it in my gut that
yeah,
I love it. I love
yeah,
that story. So
yeah,
it's almost, it's hard to explain, but you get, the more passionate I am about a story and the more I want to just tell the story that I want to
yeah.
tell, the thicker the skin I have.
Yep, yep.
For if people don't like it, if it's not successful,
Yeah,
I really don't, it doesn't,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
pounces off because it's what I wanted to tell. It's what I wanted to
yeah,
do. And there's a lot of comics out there, Tommy. There is a lot of
yeah.
comics out there.
There is.
And I just don't want to be doing the 50-second
Yeah,
big broad sci-fi creator owned thing that's going to
yeah,
go out there and land with a thud. I just don't
yeah,
want to keep doing that. I just want
yeah.
to do what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what's great is you start to build this history, and then you get to the point where you can do that, David. I think you've earned that, and now you can do those kind of things. And I think a lot of people like Image Comics, IDW, some of these different brands are probably very trusting in whatever you're going to put out there is going to hit really nice. So I think a lot of writers want to get to that point, and it's pretty cool that you're there. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's honestly, I remember being, I remember 2017, David,
Yeah, yeah.
when his first thing came out. And
Yeah,
I remember feeling that way. I would sit in panels and I would look up at the stage and be like, how cool is that?
yeah,
How
yeah, for
cool
sure.
is that to get to that point?
Yeah,
And the only way
yeah,
that I got to that, I mean, yes, you have to have some level of talent. You've got to
for sure.
be a good person and you have to find your way in the industry and you've got to do all these
Yeah,
things. But for me, the number one thing is I just write what I love to write.
yeah,
And Canto's a great example.
yeah,
Drew sent me this character sketch. We had been wanting to work together on something, and he sent me this character sketch. And within 1/2 second, 1/2 second of opening that PDF
Yeah.
in my and seeing that little character, I said, I don't know who this is and I don't know what the story is, but we are going to tell it
Yeah.
because I had such a I had like the baby Yoda, the Grogu visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Like if anything happens to this character, I'm gonna riot.
Yeah.
So I knew right out of the gate, I'm like, I don't care if this is successful or is not successful. This is the kind of comic that I want to read. So this is the
Yeah.
kind of comic I want to write. And
Yeah.
that has been like my guiding principle for all, every series I do,
Yeah.
whether it's big, queer sci-fi or
Yeah. Yeah.
all ages fantasy or horror or all this stuff. It's
Yeah.
just, what do I want to read as a comics reader?
Yeah.
And it's not, it's,
Yeah.
I just don't want to rehash the same things over and over. So
I'm really hoping, like, if I were to go back into the 80s and this was like a Saturday morning cartoon, it would blow my mind. It
I mean,
so
that's why I
much
pitch
needs
it.
to
I'm
be an
like,
animated like something. I just think it would be incredible.
it's in development as a movie that
Yeah.
I'm writing the script. So, it's going to be very true to the voice of
Yeah.
Canto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, part of the pitch is that you remember Labyrinth, the never ending
Yes.
story, and
Oh,
and and
huge impact on my life. Never ending
Dark
story. Oh,
Crystal,
I'm getting chills.
Secret of Nim. I know
Yeah.
we share the same entertainment brain. It sounds like
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's how I pitch it. I'm like,
Yeah.
just bring those that feeling, that sensibility to
Yeah.
modern audiences.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's lacking now. I mean, the stuff that you
Yeah.
see, it's all like, oh, we're doing Labyrinth again, we're doing Dark Crystal again, we're doing Willow
Yeah.
again. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's one thing to bring back something from the 80s. It's another thing to
Yeah.
hit what those things meant in the
Yeah.
80s, but do it with something new and something that's contemporary in 2023.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. There's, writers sometimes get writer's block. I do think we're going through a stage of creator's block. And if you notice a lot of things that are kind of coming out, it's really like a part two of something that happened 20 years ago. And so I fully
Oh,
agree
you
with you.
mean
Yeah.
I
uh,
just totally trashed bringing stuff
I
back from
didn't
the
mean it
80s. And
like
I'm like,
that.
whoa, I love Dungeons and
Did not
Dragons from
mean that, David.
1983.
Did not
Um,
mean that, my friend. But you know what I mean, right? There's a lot of movies that have come like Ghostbusters. There's gonna be another Ghost. I think there's 3 Ghostbusters. A lot, and again, they're fun. I'm not throwing shade at them at all, but you're just redoing the same thing with different characters. And although, from a diversity standpoint, those things need to be done, but I feel like you could be a little bit more creative and tell a whole new story while still bringing forth some of those most important things. And sometimes I feel like some of that's missing. It's just a regurgitation. You're just changing out people. And, I feel like where's that creativity, like you were talking about, where you could have kind of the essence of that with a new story that's more modern, where more people could connect to it. And then in the next 20 years, we'll be talking about Canto as opposed to Star Wars, which happened in the 70s, right?
the reboot, the
Yeah.
sequel, the prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the reality that we're working in is that all of these studios and networks and everybody are looking for some hook to get people
Yeah.
to come in. And
For
if
sure.
that hook is that this existed 30 years ago, then that's what they're going to use.
Yeah.
So original properties like Canto is really, uphill battle. So
Yeah.
you gotta like, you just have to, you have to have something to get people to
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
quality, unfortunately, is not
Yeah.
going to be the sole thing that pushes something forward.
Yeah.
So there is a path forward, and it's convincing the world that convincing everyone from
Yeah.
studios down to audiences that new is good, and
Yeah.
there's going to be some mix, some equilibrium between stuff that we know and
Yeah.
new things
Right. Right.
that hopefully that's where we get. And with streaming, of course, you can try all kinds of new
Oh
things,
yeah.
but
I
even
mean, that's
there,
awesome.
like going
Yeah.
toward, oh, we need to make sure we have some built-in success in there.
Yeah.
So, but we're still pushing forward. We're still going to
You'll
do it.
push it
We're still
forward. You
going to do
have
it.
to, right? You have to.
Yep, you have to.
So then we kind of come to Firefly, the all new Firefly, which is
Oh yes.
pretty awesome because, in fact, about maybe a month and a half ago, I started rewatching that first series of Firefly. just because it's been so long since I watched it. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was free with ads on like Pluto or one of those. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those free. And then it just dropped on Hulu because when I reached out to you,
Let's
I'm like,
go.
I
Yeah.
should check and see if Firefly's still on. I think it was Tubi actually. I'm sorry, it was Tubi. And then I saw it was on Hulu without commercials. I'm like, this is awesome. So I'm gonna restart it all over again. You kind of got me back into it. So
Did
yeah,
you watch it all?
I
Did
did.
you finish it?
I'm on episode 5 of season 1. So yeah, it's just so cool to get back into it, and I just like
Yeah.
it brings back a lot of really positive memories. And
I loved the show. I loved
yeah,
the show so much. I just loved the
yeah,
tone of it and the
yeah,
characters and the way they just interact with each other.
yeah,
And I've watched it, multiple times. So when I
yeah,
got the chance, I started with Firefly doing a one shot, and I told the story of how Simon got River out of
yeah,
the academy on Osiris and got her onto Serenity in the
yeah,
pilot episode when she's in the little crate.
yeah,
Uh, so from there, then boom, then I got to write the Gospel According to Jane, which is my big long story arc about Jane. It's
yeah,
a it's a 10 issues plus a double sized last issue, big damn finale. And I haven't heard anything since that's come out, but
yeah,
they're doing, I think, the hardcover for the volume one, which is the first 4 issues, has come out. Volume two is being solicited right now, which is great.
yeah,
So please, everybody, buy it. I want to
yeah,
get that volume three,
absolutely.
and I want to have that beautiful three hardcover set. But
Yeah,
getting to tell a Jane story in this world is absolutely phenomenal.
it's got to be a lot
The
of fun too,
artists,
right? Being such a fan.
yeah, because like Jane gets such a there's a moment in the
Yeah.
show. There was an episode where it's the one where they go to the hospital
Oh
and
yeah,
they've got to get and they're smuggling out the medication
yeah,
from the hospital on Osiris, and
uh-huh,
Jane sort of does this underhanded thing where he's going to turn Simon and River in, and
yeah,
ultimately he doesn't,
yeah,
um, and then Mal puts him in the airlock because he found out about it, and
yeah,
Jane's in the airlock, and instead of pleading for his life, he
yeah,
tells Mal, "Don't tell the
uh,
others what I did."
yeah. Oh yeah,
And in that moment, Mal
yeah.
changes his entire scene. Mal
Everything.
changes his entire perspective on who
Yeah,
Jane is.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
was that moment that pushed me to explore who Jane really is.
yeah, yeah,
Because he's a hired gun, but he's
yeah,
so much more complicated than that. And
yeah,
his
for
history
sure.
is so much more complicated. And he's
Yeah,
a good guy inside, but he doesn't know. He's
yeah,
afraid for other people to see that. And he's just trying
yeah.
to navigate
Not
the
vulnerable,
verse.
right? He just doesn't seem vulnerable at times, right?
He's he's not, but that's because he has tried.
Yeah,
When he was young, he tried
yeah,
and he got burned.
yeah, yeah,
And so he he has ingrained in his brain that
yeah,
the path of good is not
mm,
is not the path to success. So
mm,
he just does what he needs to.
yeah,
But he's pushed in this story arc that I wrote. He gets pushed into a situation where he's got to show his true colors, and he
yeah,
does.
yeah.
And it's for me, it was just an amazing ride. It was an amazing ride to be able to do that.
Yeah, so when you were at Diggers, I did get it and I finally got it back. It takes so long to
What?
get back, but this is the one you signed for me over at Diggers.
Oh
So
my God, I love it. I love
yeah.
it. I don't even have that slabbed yet.
Well, I'll send this to you if you want it. You deserve it, man. It's yours. But
Oh man, it's
this
so
is
awkward for me to have anything that's signed by me and slabbed.
it's okay.
Or
Yeah,
like I'm collecting my own signature.
I know,
So
but
I
it's
get
still
the
pretty cool.
unslabbed.
Still pretty
Yeah,
cool to
I
have it
get
slabbed, I would think, though.
yeah, so I get the so I have like Rain number one and
Yeah.
Specs number one. I have Canto. I have all eight of the issue number one where we started. There's eight different covers
Oh, for
with
Canto.
reprintings for Canto,
Yeah,
and I have
yeah.
all of those in 9.8s.
Those are a little
Uh,
expensive on eBay, just so you know. The first one.
Not if you bought them in 2019, my friend.
It's true. Very
Bet
true.
on yourself. You bet on yourself.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I could have sent them in to get them slabbed because I have some. But
yeah.
the Canto number ones came off the press with creases on the.
Yeah.
Do you know this story?
No,
It's
no, please.
called the Canto crease. Eighty
Wow, they've named
percent
it.
of the yeah, and there's actually a YouTube tutorial video. I don't know if it's still up where I'm teaching you how to press out the Canto crease.
Oh
for
my
issue number one.
goodness. I'm gonna
That's
try and
why the
find that,
prices
David.
are
I'm gonna try and find
outrageous.
it.
I know that's why the prices are outrageous because there was only 6,500 where was the first initial print run,
Oh, okay.
and 80% of them or more came off the press
Wow.
with like three of these creases on the spine. So you
Yeah.
have to press them to
Yeah.
get a 9.8 basically.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't do any of that. I just bought them second hands for already slabbed. But
Yeah.
I have those. I have Specs number one, Rain number
Yeah.
one, Killer Queens number one,
I,
all in 9.8s.
I did do the
What?
Specs 2 number one because you signed that one for me as well. And it's
Chef's
gorgeous.
kiss.
It's so beautiful. You know what's funny is that you send them in. I literally bought this from you. It was brand new. I didn't touch it. I sent it in right away to get slabbed. And a 9.8, I'm not pooing on a 9.8. I want to know, has anyone ever got a 10 on anything? Like, is that even
Yes,
possible?
there's metal covers. Yeah, there's the metal
Okay.
covers and foil covers.
Uh,
That's I in my IMHO, in my humble opinion, it's because they resist any sort of damage.
yeah, yeah,
Something like that, something like Specs, which is just regular, newsprint paper,
yeah,
is not going to. I mean, it's very rare to get a. I mean, it's very rare. 9.9. I
yeah.
mean,
I've never
I'm
seen it.
I'm happy with 9.8s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. I just saw a 10. It was a foil something,
Oh, was it?
but
Yeah.
can you imagine? I can't even imagine. So
I feel like 9.8 is
9.9.
really a 10, right? That's a 10. That's a 10.
Yeah, I'm never gonna get to be a 10 personally, so
Yeah,
I'll
well,
accept myself as a 9.8.
yeah, yeah,
Never
I'll
get
take it. I'll take anything in the nines to be quite. The older
as
I
I'm
get,
as I'm I was gonna say as I'm aging, I'm like
yeah.
9.4, 9.2, 6.5.
Oh. It'd be funny to ask my wife what she thinks. I think I'd be in the sevens at this point in my life. So the
It's
longer you're
funny.
with a partner, right? I think you learn to live with each other. But anyways,
You get
that's funny.
those creases. You get those creases.
I feel like I have a lot
Spine
of creases
creases.
lately.
Same, same.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's
so I
awesome.
did so I did Firefly and that wrapped up and
Yep.
Specs at Boom, which is a
Yeah.
4-issue series that's currently in pre-orders for the trade.
Which
That
is
was really
awesome.
exciting. It did really well.
I just love the
Um,
premise of the story too. It's incredible, right? I mean, the
cool.
story
It felt like
itself
a
is
Twilight Zone to
it
me.
is. That's what it reminded me of, the Twilight Zone. I
Yeah.
grew up watching the Twilight Zone, and there's some episodes that I had bad dreams about for a long time as a kid. But this reminded me had a little bit of a flavor of that. But I just love the principle of it with the specs, and I thought the story was amazing.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was another passion project that,
yeah,
had a long tail and a long history and a long life
yeah,
getting to Boom for the 4 issues there. And I'm just glad Chris Sheehan was the artist on it, and
yeah.
they're just fantastic on it. And
It's
it's funny,
amazing
Twilight
the
Zone.
dance that you have to have with an artist. Like when you're reading a comic book, right? You're limited to how much you could write. If not, you're writing a novel, right? So there's limitations. And I would love your perspective on how important it is to have the right artist for that story to come forth, right? Because it's not just the words that's telling the story. The pictures and each block is leading you on to what the next,
Yeah.
I think, bubble is going to say. And when you have an artist where you're really in connection, I feel like, man, it really comes through. I don't know if you have that sense. I'm sure you do. I mean, you've been doing this a while, but how important is that as a writer?
So it's selecting the partnering with the right artist is key,
Yeah.
and as long as that artist has the right tone and style and
Mm-hmm.
is technically a good artist, even if not a lot of experience, you can tell when with sample pages if an
Yeah.
artist has the technical skill. So I think that's it's style and skill
Yeah.
that and if you get it right, like with Chris and with Drew and with
Yeah.
Claudia on Killer Queens, if you get that right partnership, I write the scripts and they go, and
Yeah.
I describe what's in the panels and I do the dialogue and that sort of thing, and then it goes off. And if I've done my job to describe sort of what I'm thinking, the artist takes it and elevates it
Yeah.
far beyond whatever I've
Yeah.
pictured. But they get what I'm going for on the page. So even if it doesn't look exactly like the essence is there,
Yeah.
even if it's not exactly like what's in the script, and then the letterer is so key
Mm,
um,
yeah.
to like on specs. Um, Roman Stevens was colors, right?
Mhm.
So uh, the tone of the colors was so spot on that Rome, it was just like that those palettes, the green
Yeah.
palette and the pink, the pinkish red palette, and just choosing these palettes that gave
Yeah.
this eeriness to the whole
For
story. It's
sure.
like something,
Yeah.
something's going to happen,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
worried about
You
it.
can
You
like
get
feel it
worried in
as you
your
look at
gut,
the pictures, right?
and it's just maybe not even a conscious thing. You're just looking at it, you're like, the tone just just hits. The
Yeah.
tone just hits, and it conveys part of the story.
Yeah.
So the very long answer to your very short question
No,
is,
no, yeah.
uh, you partner with the right artist, and the script is the script, and then you send it off, and you
Yeah.
almost don't have to have that daily back. Drew and I have daily back and forth, but it's not necessarily on trying to get things right. It's just
Mhm.
talking.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you get that right mix in there, you kind of can let it all go. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with specs, that's what I did. I wrote the scripts, and then Chris sort of was able to take it from there. And when I saw the pages come back from Chris, I was like, well, this is exactly it.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
no notes. A
That's
plus, no notes.
Yeah, yeah. That's so awesome. So then we kind of end with specs, Dungeons and Dragons. We kind of talked about a little bit. This is kind of the probably the most current, correct, that you're working on right now is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so specs just ended, and Dungeons and
yep,
Dragons is currently going. I think when this drops, we'll just be about a week out of issue 2, and a
yep.
couple weeks away from issue number 3, and it's a 4-issue arc. It's
Okay.
based on the Saturday morning cartoon from the '80s, Dungeons and
Yes,
Dragons. I'll
I
show my
love
I'll
it.
show my colors. This is actually the shirt
You're like
of the
a
cartoon.
oh, that's dope. That is awesome. I didn't even
I'm
see
a, I'm a billboard.
you're like a walking billboard, David.
I'm so excited. Somebody sent me a text. One of my uncle sent me a text this morning,
Uh-huh.
and you know that Hasbro put out these action figures for Dungeons
Yes.
and Dragons Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Now they're doing. Oh God, I have to look. I forget what. It's Hasbro is putting out mini mates,
Oh.
mini mates, and then the little characters. And I
That's
just
awesome.
was like,
Yeah.
how dare you force me to spend all of my money, Hasbro.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That is so
but
cool.
there was cameos in the movie, and it's just like there was
Yeah.
this renaissance of this cartoon that I adored when I was a kid. I adored it. So getting the opportunity to write what is essentially a lost episode, it's
Yeah.
like an episode of the show as
Really?
a comic book, and
Yeah.
seeing the people,
Yeah.
you always get a little nervous when things get out there, your work
Yeah.
gets out there, but seeing the response and the fans just
Yeah.
loving that this exists,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
like the story, and it's been so fun to play in this world. And
yeah.
again, it goes back to passion.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
soon as I got the opportunity to do Dungeons and Dragons, I
yeah.
said, my big secret is I have never played a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. I know the world, I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
the monsters, and I know the game mechanics, and I know
yeah,
the history of it,
yeah.
and I know the cartoon and the movies, but I've never taken that next step, and I'm a little nervous about it because I think you need the right DM,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need the right crew
Yeah.
to do a campaign, because otherwise it could be really rough. So
Yeah.
just waiting to dip my and it's time sync, so I'm waiting to
Yeah.
dip my toe into that. But when IDW came to me and said we're doing Dungeons and Dragons, it's like, oh, okay, that's fun. And they said it's based on the Saturday morning cartoon, and I was like,
Oh.
you put anybody in front of me, I will. Another Hunger Games reference, I will take him out. I'll take him out because I want to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can, my job, Tommy, is sitting in front of my computer with my TV on
That's so
with
cool.
Saturday morning '80s cartoons of Dungeons and Dragons playing
Yeah,
as
yeah.
I am writing a script with dialogue of these very same characters. And I'm like, and I'm wearing a shirt. And I'm like,
You're living the dream,
how is
man.
this my life?
It's
So,
just slightly different from being a lawyer in LA, I think. Not too far off, right?
oh my God, I can't
do
even
you do
express
you
to you.
miss it at all being a lawyer, or you are just so much in grossed by what you're doing now that you even forget you were a lawyer at one time. I mean, you're still a lawyer, obviously, but you forget that part of your life because you're having
I'm
so.
so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because a lot of people are like, oh, what is it? How does it feel not to be a lawyer anymore? And
Yeah,
I strongly believe that everybody, if you've gone through the training, you've
yeah,
gone past the bar, everything. You're always a lawyer, no matter what you're
yeah,
doing. So I'm not practicing anymore. But honestly, I don't. I don't. This is my passion. This is my
yeah,
passion. This is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
yeah.
I'm not going to be going. I'm at a age. We're very close
Yeah.
in age. So
I think
this
so.
is it's like that 90-degree turn as your
Yeah,
life goes and you're just taking a different direction. So yeah, as compared to going into my job to write legal opinions versus going
yeah.
into my job to watch cartoons and write funny books,
Now it sounds like a really
I'm all in.
in the way you said it like that.
I'm all in. I'm all in. But
Yeah,
you bringing it a little bit more serious.
yeah, yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons has been such a wonderful experience for me because it's like Firefly,
yeah,
where I can those characters live in my they
yeah,
live rent free in my
yeah,
brain.
yeah,
And so I know what Presto is going to say in any moment.
yeah,
I know what Eric's going to complain about here. I know how Hank and Sheila are going to argue about this thing.
yeah,
I just know
yeah,
when they're together what they're going to say because they're
yeah,
internalized. And for me, writing other folks' stories and properties and characters and everything,
yeah,
that's going to be my guiding principle going forward. Is
yeah,
can I hear their voices? Can I
yeah,
and that's a big reason why I haven't done any of I haven't really pursued any Marvel or DC
yeah,
because I didn't grow up with those characters.
yeah, yeah,
So it'd have to be something that I feel really passionate about. Otherwise, it will be like sitting behind the desk and writing those legal opinions and just knowing that I'm just doing this
yeah,
for the paycheck. And so I got to have that passion.
yeah, yeah.
If
No,
there's any Marvel and DC editors, listening,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
find out what I'm passionate about. Let's talk and see what I'm passionate about.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so that's really, and it's a lot of the 80s
yeah,
properties that the things that I loved as a kid. I would
yeah.
love to write Garbage Pail Kids,
Oh,
Dynamite,
that would be pretty
Dark
cool.
Garbage. It would
I
kill
heard you're
me.
a Man
Mad
fan,
Balls.
right? You watched a
What's
lot of
that?
He-Man growing up too.
Oh my god, I freaking love T-Man. I
Masters
loved it
of
so
the
much.
Universe. Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
all the
Super
toys. I had
passionate
all
as
the
Tim
toys.
Seeley. I did not know how big of a He-Man fan this guy was. And boy, he is. And no, he's writing Masters of the Universe right now. So
Oh yeah.
you have to,
I mean,
you
that's
have
the thing. You have
to
to.
out for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that Tim is writing it because
Yeah.
he's such a huge fan.
Yeah. It
So
comes
that would
across.
be more. Yeah, and that would be it would make me sad to see a property that I loved as a kid with
Yeah.
somebody who's just not who's
Yeah.
like that's fine, I'll just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. There's so many 80s things I would love to write. I'm a big Nintendo
Oh,
fan. I had the original Nintendo, so Super Mario Brothers,
oh yeah.
Zelda, Mega Man.
That might be
Um,
coming to you, David, after the success of the movie. You never know. Maybe there will be a Super
oh,
Mario,
I would love
something you could
that.
do.
I just got graded a bunch of the Nintendo Valiant
Oh,
comics
did you?
from the late 80s, early
Yeah.
90s. I love them
Those are
so
going to
much.
blow up right now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, those are PC, those are personal collection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that's the kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I would love to bring a new Zelda story with an
Yeah.
interesting artist, and do a new project there. Beetlejuice,
Oh, yeah.
DC. If you are listening, I want to do the Beetlejuice. I have an idea
Yeah.
for Beetlejuice.
Yeah. That's a
I want to
WB
do
property, right?
Warner Brothers, so it'll
Yeah.
probably be a DC
Yeah. I would
book.
think so.
Um, but Beetlejuice was the first movie I ever remember seeing in the movie theater.
Really?
Yeah, so
You
there's
heard
such a deep
you,
passion.
you hear that they're redoing it again, right?
Yeah, they're doing the sequel
A sequel of
finally,
it.
which is a
Yeah.
great opportunity. Just like Dungeons and Dragons, I think
Yeah.
the comic has seen a lot of success
Yeah.
because it came out just
Yeah.
timed right in the same week as the movie, which I think was maybe partly planned, but you can never
Yeah.
really plan those things, so it just sort of lined up. So if there's a Beetlejuice sequel, I think there should be an accompanying comic and animated TV show. And maybe, just maybe, Tommy, I might have an idea for both or all of them.
I love it. I love it. Well, I hope that happens for you because that would be a really good read for sure if you did
Sure.
it. That's awesome. So I have a question just as a writer, and let's use Killer Queens or Rain because those had several issues, right? And as a writer, right, you launch issue one comes out, but as a writer, what issue are you already working on? How far ahead normally, especially in a series that you know is going to go maybe 10 issues, how far ahead do you have to be in order to stay on top of a monthly issue coming out? I just out of curiosity.
Probably four. Probably
Or
four.
okay, yeah,
If it's a 4 issue arc, you're usually have finished
yeah,
all the scripts. If it's a
gotcha.
5 issue, you're probably four in.
Mm-hmm.
Much more concerning, you know, I shouldn't even say this, but to get a first draft of a 20-page comic script out, it's like a day or two. You
Yeah,
sit
yeah,
down and really focus on it, and you can
yeah.
get that first draft out if you just go.
Mm-hmm.
Revisions take a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
the scripting is really the it was really probably one of the quickest
Okay. Yep.
parts of the process. It's really giving the artist enough time to
Yeah.
draw.
Yeah.
So you need to have those scripts ready because then the artist needs to be working probably 3 issues ahead of release
Okay.
because once you solicit that first issue in the Diamond catalog and
Yeah.
Penguin Random House for ordering, that train has left the station. And as I always say, you are either on that train or you're underneath it. So the
Yeah.
more preparation you can do before that happens, the more likely is you're going to be riding in the train instead of being just completely run over.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really good
Been
insight.
both places. I've been
Yeah.
both places and it's
Yeah, I
good.
know. I have the scars from being run over, and I look at them sometimes when I'm on the train as a reminder where I need to be, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's really good insight. I think a lot of people have that question as a writer or an artist, like how far ahead should I be if I'm trying to create something that I do want to put in like a diamond? Because I think there's a lot of people, and what I love about indie is it's so easy on one hand, and I say this with all respect, it's so easy to get into indie comics if you want to create something. Of course, it's very expensive, but I mean, you have companies like Comic Wellspring and Kablam where I mean, you send them what you have, they print it in 3 weeks, you have your comic, right? Then there's this
Yeah.
uphill battle of getting someone to look at it to give you feedback and to be
Right.
successful. But I always wondered that, and I think a lot of people I talk to are like, I wonder how far ahead like a writer has to be. So I appreciate you giving us that insight because that's I think valuable for sure.
Yeah. And the key to it, I mean, and that's not just because it's not the end of the world if you don't have it ready and you're soliciting it.
Mm,
But to set yourself up for success,
yeah,
it's already such a uphill battle. You get your first issue comes out, and hopefully you get some good success with it, and folks pick it up. Issue one,
yeah,
that's going to be your high water mark,
yeah,
unless you are very very lucky and very unique.
yeah, yeah,
That's going to be your high water mark on the number of copies that you sell, and everything after that is going to step down.
yeah, yeah,
And the best way to kill any momentum that you might have is
yeah,
to release a monthly comic book that's 4 issues long and then take 3 months between issues two and three.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just
Done. It's like
you're going to
starting
lose
over,
all of
right?
your you're going to not even starting over. You just kind of you kill
Um,
the project. So
yeah,
it's not even like you can build that back up. So
mhm,
the working ahead is to ensure that it's already tough when you're on that monthly
yeah,
schedule that you'll see your issue one if you hit 10,000, your issue four, your issue five is going to be 5,000. It's going to be
yeah,
50%. If you're doing well,
yeah,
it's going to be way less than that if you have a delay in between. So the working ahead is really to set you up, is to
yeah,
minimize the variables that you can control about the
hmm,
success of your own book because
yeah,
there's so much that's out of your control. Keep
hmm,
those things that you can control close to you and right in on track.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Ah,
It's
a lot of
tough.
pressure. A lot
It's
of
tough.
pressure.
That's why, I mean, It's tough. Indie comics is tough,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
friends,
yeah.
but it's fun. It's
I love
fun.
it. I mean, the the stuff that you're writing and a lot of other indie creators. I mean, if indie wasn't where it is today, it would be really hard for a lot of these stories to come forth. And that's why I'm a big fan of indie comics. I mean, like I said, I do love superhero comics and I love Marvel and DC. I still read a lot of those, but my heart is where indie's at because you get a book like Specs. You're not going to get that without having to bring forth so much canon, and there's just a lot of complexity to try and bring forth that story. And I think they want to bring forth those kind of stories, but it's really hard because you have this history that you have to kind of honor in a certain way, right? But indie, it's free, like it's just wide open.
Yeah,
And yeah, you could just tell
you
these
can
stories.
do anything,
And then these
and
audience that
you
have those stories, it makes it a lot easier to find them too, right?
yeah, and you're sort of creating your own. You're sort of pushing out the industry. You're pushing
Yeah,
out what's available and what it means to be an indie comic. And like I
yeah,
said, there's so many comics out there that I want to do the things that I want to read and I
yeah,
love, and that don't necessarily look like everything else out there. And as I do that, like Rain doesn't really look like the typical horror book, and
no.
Specs doesn't look like a typical horror book.
Right,
And there's
yeah.
a new horror book that I'm doing that we announced called The Drowned Man, and
Ooh,
that's going to be with Chris Ryle and Syzygy and Image, and that's
Drown, like drowning.
like drowned,
Oh, drown. Yeah. Oh,
drowned man. So it's kind of like it's a small town urban legend, and it's a boogeyman, and he's kind of like um, Candyman and Jaws. So he takes all of his victims via any sort of water.
oh,
So no
wow.
matter how little or how much water there is,
That's scary as
he
hell.
can. That's how he can attack, and he takes kids. So you
Oh,
imagine a little kid
yeah.
like hopping from puddle to puddle to puddle in the rain. He hops in another puddle, and the
That's,
arms come up. It's gone.
oh, that's
It's gone.
crazy. So when it
So, but
we
it's a, but
like
it's
that,
what's that?
do we have like a timetable you can share or not yet?
Not quite yet. Not
Okay.
quite
All
yet.
right.
We just announced it at WonderCon, but
Nice.
it's going to be again. It's a spiritual successor to Rain and Specs because it's
Yeah.
really focused on this family and this widower who's a firefighter
Uh,
and his two teenage twins.
mhm.
There's a downpour, and the
Uh,
urban legend is every time that there is a torrential rainstorm, you hear a bell ring, and then the drowned man comes and takes his next victim.
oh my gosh.
And the storm rolls in. They move into town, and they just lost their. It's two dads, and they just lost one of their dads, and the
Uh,
other dad is trying to start over again with his teenage twins. And the
yeah.
rain comes in, and
Oh
they
my
hear the
God.
bell ringing, and then the twins get taken. And it's a story about this dad fighting. Imagine like
Oh,
Poltergeist hears them in the house, but he can't
yeah.
find them, and
Oh
he's
my God.
fighting to take his kids back from the drowned man. So it's
I got chills. Whew.
it's a very tight family story
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
relationship story, and it's about parenthood and kids and
Yeah.
safety and staying together, but set against this boogeyman.
That's crazy.
So you'll see it's very spiritually linked to those three. It's like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
whole character horror trilogy. So we don't have a release date quite yet for that,
Okay.
but we are in production on it. So, like you said, we got to work very far ahead
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just to make sure it all comes out.
That's so exciting.
Thanks. I'm excited about it. I think it's a good, when I
The premise
just
is
the
incredible.
idea, just the idea of like Candyman, but
Yes.
you can attack you
Yeah.
can attack via water, and water is everywhere, so nowhere is
Yeah.
safe.
The 80s also is one of the best decades for horror movies too. So yeah.
And it's going to have a lot of that vibe to it. That
Will it? Yeah.
um, yeah, of
Of course.
course. I mean, one of the covers I want to do is um, the Evil Dead poster, but instead of the
Oh,
dirt, she's getting dragged down into water.
that would be
Yeah,
amazing
she's
cover.
racing.
Yes.
Cool
Yes.
cover, right?
Yep.
I'm,
Yep.
it'll happen. It'll happen. We'll make sure it happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, awesome, David. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed our conversation. Big fan of yours and the work that you do. I know there's a lot of other big fans out there of a lot of the stuff that you've done, or most of the stuff I would say that you've done has been just, I don't know, I love it. Canto, I'm a little biased to Canto. I really want that Saturday morning style cartoon of it. I love the adventures. It makes you feel good after you're done reading it. It just, I don't know. I get all the warm and fuzzies. And then all the other stuff like Specs and Rain, it really makes you think. And I don't know. I think
Well,
you
thank you for
walk away and you're thinking about it for a few hours.
good. Well, thank you for doing this
Yeah.
show, because without folks like you, it's really hard for us as indie creators to get our stuff out there and get the word out, because
Yeah.
that's half the battle. You can make the
Yeah.
best comic in the world, and if people aren't reading it, they don't
Yeah.
know about it, you're not going to be able
Exactly.
to can you continue on. So thank you for doing it, and thank you for having me on. And I had
Yeah.
a great time. It was so fun to goof off
Yeah.
for a little while.
I love it too. Yeah. Well, David, we wish you the very best. Until next time, I'm hoping that you could come on once your newest venture comes to life. I would love to know more about it and then actually get into it and dig into it with you. I can't wait for that to happen. And if you're in Southern California near Hemet, you'll be at Diggers Comics on May 6th, right?
Free comic book day.
Comic Book Day. Do you have a book that you're bringing for signing? Or are you just going to let people bring? Are you going to
Oh,
bring?
I'm going to have some. You can bring whatever you want. I don't charge for signatures unless you want to do some fancy grading of it. Then
Yeah, yeah,
then then we'll chat.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'll have some Canto variants,
Ooh.
and I'm gonna have some Specs VHS variant.
Oh, how
Uh,
cool is that?
so I've got a Canto VHS and I've got a Specs VHS. So for issue number one, so
That's so
I call it
cool.
my VHS box set from the 80s. So I'll have a couple of those. I might have
Yeah.
some D&D. I think I have some little combos that I'm doing of the D&D issue number one signed with one of the D&D Saturday morning cartoon action figures that I signed the box. So I'm
All
just
right.
having some fun. Just having some fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, I wish you all the best, David, and thank you again so much for joining us. It was an amazing opportunity to get to know you better and to highlight all the incredible things that you've been able to do in the industry. So until next time, really appreciate you and have a great weekend, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.